Hey there, good morning everyone. Wednesday, the 21st of September 2022. This morning's devotional is a reading from Psalm 46, verse 10, which reads, "Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth." Have you discovered when someone says, "God told me to do something," we think that we are either confronted with a deeply spiritual person or someone in need of a psychiatrist? Yet, some who think they are constantly hearing the voice of God are not in need of mental health care, but they do need help. They tend to confuse the voice of God with the voice of religion and the voice of our culture and the voice of our world. An Old Testament book speaks of the voices which confront us today: the voice of the city, the voice of organized religion, and the separate, distinct voice of God. And we can find this in Isaiah chapter 66, verse 6. Isaiah mentions two voices: the uproar from the city and the noise which came from the temple. First, the voice of the city was the voice of uproar, the voice of turmoil. It represents the way life is today. Instead of coming in nice little neat packages, life is often noisy, confusing, and frustrating. So much of today tends to drown out the still, quiet voice of God. For example, the media, schedules, interruptions, the noise of responsibility, and the clutter of activity. The second voice was that of the voice coming from the temple, and this should have been clear and serene, but it wasn't. It was the voice of organized religion. Isaiah had condemned the priests who had been corrupt and were no longer pure. Today, as in Isaiah's day, you have to use discernment to sift the true from the false. Sadly, this is one thing that many do not do. The good news is you can still hear his voice today. As God says, this is the way, walk in it. But how do you know that you've really heard the voice of God? Firstly, God's voice is a quiet, still one. You've got to listen really carefully. Isaiah 46 verse 10 reminds us, "Be still and know that I am God." Secondly, his voice almost always speaks contrary to what our ways are, the ways that we want to do, but it never speaks contrary to what his word says, that is the Bible. This means that what God usually wants you to do normally comes with a bit of a price tag attached to it. The way of God and the ways of our sinful natures are always in opposition with each other. You don't find many people that are willing to honestly admit and say, "Lord, I'm willing to walk the narrow path, provided you walk with me." And the third idea is that we need to remember about the voice of God, and that is that what God asks you to do will glorify himself and no glory for you. And that is something that we really struggle with. We want all the shine. But when God asks you to do a thing, it's normally to glorify his name, not your name. My dear friends, a challenge for us today. We need to begin filtering out all the noise and the uproar of the city and the hustle and bustle and the noise of the temple, and let us withdraw to a quiet place so that we may be still and know that he is God. May the Lord be with you. May he bless you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be with you always. Goodbye.